question comes from the line of Tim Lugo with William Blair.
Thanks for taking the questions. And I just wanted to confirm if if the inspectors would need to come out and they're not regional inspectors. I know that there's been a movement kind of away from local inspectors and more towards national teams, depending on the indications and I guess product, or if you're just deducing that the travel restrictions are what is the hurdle. And maybe you mentioned this already, but can you just confirm if the inspection is the last major issue outstanding in the review?
Yeah, so Tim, great question. So in terms of the, what we've heard from the agency, what they have confirmed is that they will need to perform a site inspection. I think that has to do with the fact that we have not qualified this manufacturing site for any other product. So this will be our first approval, which is why an inspection does need to take place. What they pointed us to is, kind of their prior guidance of saying that, here's sort of the guidance. We've got, protocols we've got to follow, and that, travel-related restrictions will impact that. That's basically what we know today. We are continuing to, work proactively. Our PDUFA date has not come yet. We're still hopeful that perhaps the inspection will take place prior to them. But as we mentioned earlier, with now being 16 days away from the PDUFA and no site visits scheduled, knowing that we need to have one, we thought it was appropriate to share with it. Again, we do feel good that we're a U.S. single-site manufacturing facility here in Northern California. So we are anxiously awaiting that. We've not commented on any other details around the actual BLA submission. We don't think it's appropriate, other than to say that we continue to feel very good about the quality of the submission that we put in, and we continue to work collaboratively with the agency. And was there a second part to the question?
I guess you maybe touched on it, just that it was the kind of last outstanding issue for the review, but it sounds like you're very confident with the quality. If an inspection were to occur tomorrow and there were some 443s, would you even be able to turn them around, given the schedule? And should we just kind of assume a delay as of now?
Great questions. I think we're theorizing. I think we're just trying to share what information we definitely know. I think that as we start getting into the, potential of this or that, it's hard to say. We're not to the clock. I know this is sort of atypical to report this out prior to the PDUFA date, but we thought it was the appropriate thing to do given the company update. So it's hard to theorize sort of whether or not we could if there's anything that were to come up, but we're ready. We're ready for them whenever they show up. So.
Okay, understood. And maybe one last commercial question. You did $2.8 million in RHA revenue this quarter. It was only a partial quarter. What was kind of the underlying demand, and should we assume that it's, the demand might be $6 million and build off of there, or can you just talk about if there were any kind of one-time loading or inventory stocking in that number?
Yeah, so great question. I think that's why we're just not in a position to give guidance yet, because it is so early. The RHA sales really reflect our sales in September. But, as you can imagine, these are initial purchases where if you look at the buying patterns for fillers, every account's a little bit different, but given the fact that it's a new product, they tend to order, a reasonable amount of product so they can get a really good experience with it. So I don't think that you should take sort of the September month and multiply it by 3 for Q4, because these are early accounts that, our reps know that we're going to. Again, we're very focused on going deep, not wide, to make sure that people that, partner with us are very committed to sort of this, premium category that we're looking to create. So I think it's early right now. Again, it's obviously a very strong start, given 1 month of launch, and the feedback we're getting is very positive, but it's a little bit too early to know what that reorder cycle is going to look like, what the stickiness of the product is going to be, and certainly, we'll be able to give you more insight into that as we report out our Q4 numbers.
Understood. Thank you for the clarity.
Thanks, Tim.
Your next question comes from the line of Serge Belanger with Needham & Company.
Hi, good afternoon. Just a couple questions for me. The first one for Mark or Dustin. Can you just talk about current patient flow levels? Have they recovered from pre-COVID levels, and are they still recovering through, I guess, mid-fourth quarter? And then secondly, on the RHA filler pricing, can you tell us where you have priced the product relative to the competition, and what you're seeing physicians price the product for their consumers? Thanks.
Thanks, Serge. This is Dustin. I think on the patient flow, I think we talked a little bit about it on the HintMD side as well. We've been really pleasantly surprised. The patient flow is coming back. Of course, some practices are different, but in most states, we're seeing that the aesthetic practices are doing well, even right at or above pre-COVID levels. Specifically with facial injectables, you think about the time that people have at home and times to get into practices. While their flow has changed, people are getting more procedures done at the office at a time, and so patient flow seems to be pretty good. We're keeping an eye on the trends in certain markets as we see upticks, but right now we feel like the offices are in a good position to manage any new restrictions and other things that caught them by surprise before, but now they really have been thoughtful about how do they manage their staff, how do they manage the flow of the practice, so they're in a good position. On the RHA side, similar to what I mentioned before, we really want the innovation to speak for itself in terms of how you drive the pricing to the consumer. So we do believe that RHA is a premium price product to the consumer. The practices set that price, and so what we've seen is a slight 5 to 10% premium to the consumer. Now, again, we have a policy uniquely set to Revance where we don't allow for that price to be advertised. So therefore, that the consumer gets its information by who delivers the best outcomes versus who's going to deliver the best price. We feel that philosophy is resonating, and it's really allowing us to focus on a subset of accounts. And so, however, pricing to the doctor is really in line with currently marketed hyaluronic acid products, which allows the margin in the practice to be at or above where they're at with current products.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep, thanks.
Your next question comes from the line of Balaji Prasad with Barclays.
Hi, good afternoon. Thanks for taking my questions. Most of it has been answered. Just a couple of questions left on HintMD. So can you kind of connect the total amount of payment process, which you mentioned was $100 million, to the revenues that you reported, which is around $0.2 million? I thought the opportunity for you was between 0.5% to 1%. That this seems more at 0.2%. Again, I understand it's early days. And secondly, on DAXI, the question that we're getting the most is on the